Welcome back to Road Trotting. My name is Derek, this is Mike, and today we're going to be talking to you about 6 things that we love about living in Denmark.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, and this may just be living in Copenhagen, but we love not having to drive everywhere. When we lived in the US, both of us have had jobs where we've had to commute an hour, hour and a half at a time. We actually both also lived most of our adult lives in Philadelphia, I mean, the 6th biggest city in America, and we both had cars. We'd sometimes use cars to go to places across the city, or you go shopping to the mall or visit family or friends in the suburbs, but we would go use that car quite a bit.
Yeah, and it could be a headache. I had over an hour commute in the morning and usually about an hour and a half commute in the evening. I would commute to the beach in the summer weekends, and that would take at least 2.5 hours with no traffic. Parking would sometimes take me half an hour. These are all the things that I do not miss at all, even though I do like driving sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice, but at the same time, I'd rather hop on my bike and go across town. I mean, I will say biking is not new for us. When we lived in Philadelphia and started dating, we actually would use the city bikes to get forth and back to our apartments, but biking is much more of a culture here in Copenhagen, especially, and across all of Denmark, and the public transit is quite good, especially in the city, but even across the country. Taking a train across the country is a heck of a lot easier in Denmark than it is back in the States.
Yeah, and people in Denmark do obviously drive, and we do too from time to time. We'll rent a car to take trips around Denmark, and when we do that, one thing that we do like is that there's roundabouts, and that's also a really nice addition to our driving experience. We're not sitting and waiting in red lights frequently, and it just makes it a lot easier to get around and keep things moving in sort of an orderly fashion. So, of course, Danes do drive, and living in Denmark, we do drive from time to time, but what I definitely love is not having to drive every single day. Another thing we love about living in Denmark is that Denmark is very family friendly. And even though we don't have children and that's not in our plan, it's really nice for us to be able to see families around us thriving.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I think sometimes people in the comments or talking to us think that the U.S. is some kind of hellscape where there's nothing at all and people aren't well taken care of. And honestly, in our experience, most people are. I mean, our families are able to have good jobs, good insurance, and the kids are able to go to good daycare, good schools, and things like that. Certainly, there's issues in the States, but it's not as bad as sometimes it's made out to be. But still, Denmark is more family friendly, I'd say, than the U.S. is. I think, especially when it comes to the work culture, where at work it is very much appreciated if you have to leave a little bit early to take care of your kids or pick them up for something or take them to practice, or you shift your hours a little bit so that you can be able to take care of the kids when they get home. It's kind of built into the whole ethos of being able to handle that. I mean, just look at how few people are in the offices for the spring and fall school holidays. I mean, it's very much accepted that it's time to take off as well.
Yeah, and like Mike said, things are generally there in the United States. It's just that people pay for it out of pocket. They have a little bit more money left in their pocket when they get their paycheck because the taxes are a bit lower. But even though we don't necessarily benefit from those things that our taxes go towards, we don't mind paying a little bit more to see the people around us living a good life, because it really does help society, and we feel like that helps everybody. It aligns pretty well with our values to be more family friendly.
One of the other things that we like living in Denmark, and I have to say we love living in Denmark, we love the Danes, we love living in Copenhagen, but one of the nice things living in Europe is your proximity to other cultures. I mean, in the US, you can fly for 5 hours and you're still going to be in the States and have the same language, the same currency, the same stores, pretty much the same kind of life. But here in Denmark, especially from Copenhagen, you're 30 minutes from being in Sweden, a couple hours from being in Germany, and a short flight from being in one of many other countries in Europe. It's really nice being able to experience different cultures, because it really is different when you go to different places.
We really love the fact that we could get on a flight like that and be in a completely different country, a very different culture, just experience different languages, cuisines, and even though there are regional differences in the United States, it really is striking how you can see so much culture in a continent like Europe with just a short plane ride or a train ride away. And on that note, it makes sense to mention one of the things that makes that much more possible, and that we also love about living in Denmark, which is having more holiday time. We've done an entire video on this topic, so we won't get that into the details, but it's super nice to go from having only a few weeks of holiday or vacation time in the United States to having a mandatory at least 5 weeks of holiday time or vacation in Denmark.
Yeah, and one of the really nice things too is how much that holiday time is respected. I mean, it's funny, when I first came over, I couldn't believe that people would take a 3-week summer holiday, and now I have no problem and no regret saying to my American colleagues that yes, I'll be out for the last 2 weeks of July and the first week of August because I'm taking my summer holiday. And at the beginning, I kind of felt a little bit pretentious saying that, but now, no, it's just your God-given right. I'm taking my 3 weeks in the summer, all right?
Yeah, and I definitely remember early on when I was working in Denmark, I would ask my boss, like almost begging in kind of a sheepish manner, like, I'm going to need like 2 days off because I have some friends visiting. And he would just look at me and say, nobody else is off in the calendar. Just put your name in there and take it. It's your time off. And I think that mindset was just something that I brought with me that I quickly dropped, and I really love about living in Denmark. And even though things are changing in the US and I think people are getting more holiday time and more accustomed to using it, it's definitely ahead of what we came from when we lived in the US. And we're nowhere near finished yet telling you all the things that we love about Denmark, but you can go over to Patreon after this video is over and catch extra bonus reasons in our after show of why we love living in Denmark. It's Patreon only content that you can find and become a patron of our channel. Thank you in advance for supporting us there.
Yeah, but while we keep on going here, one of the other things that we love about living in Denmark is that things just work. I mean, certainly things in Denmark can get a little bureaucratic, and we've had our little run-ins with having to navigate the healthcare system, the immigration system, the banking system, and probably a few other systems in our years that we've been here. But at the same time, like, you know you're being treated fairly, and in the end, things just work. The buses run, the banking system works, the mail arrives. Well, I mean, not so much the mail, but in general, things just work, and you can have trust in the system that it's going to work when you need it.
And exactly like you said, a big part of it is once you're in the system, which does take a little bit of time. I think it took me about 6 months after I arrived. But once you're in the system, everything works, and you can rest assured that you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah, and just that peace of mind that, I mean, we joked on our channel about how you have to have all these different apps to be able to navigate things in all the different things you have to do in Denmark, but I think it is kind of a sign that things work where you can have 20 apps on your phone and access everything from healthcare, even though it's like 6 apps for your healthcare and banking and, you know, everything else that you have to use. It's just nice that things work and you can trust that it does.
And along with that idea of trust and things working, I have to say that one thing I love about living in Denmark is just feeling more safe and secure. And that is due to a lot of things. Trust is a big part of Danish society, and we've talked about that before, but trust is really what makes all of these things possible. And feeling safe is really a big part of being able to trust everybody.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's physical safety. The nice thing is that you can be on a bus at 2 o'clock in the morning or walking on a kind of dark street and not have to worry about your physical safety going around. But at the same time, it's that kind of just presence of safety that, again, that sense that people just feel like they're going to be taken care of. It's that kind of emotional safety that you get as well from the society of trust and a system that works around you. It's a nice feeling that you kind of don't have to worry about kind of existential fears as you do in a lot of other places.
Yeah, I remember early on I used to sometimes do work from a coffee shop, and if I got up to use the toilets, I would say to somebody like, oh, do you mind watching my things? I eventually stopped doing that because I just realized it almost makes it seem like I don't trust the other people in the coffee shop. And also, small talk is kind of frowned on, which we've also talked about before. But again, trust is a big part of the social contract. So I feel comfortable leaving my laptop in my bag if I'm just going to get up and order coffee or use the toilet and be away from it for 2 or 3 minutes. I can trust that the people around me are going to do the right thing. And if somebody is not doing the right thing, they're going to intervene in that. I can trust in other ways too, like the ability to go have a beer in the park, for example. You know, people are basically trusted to handle themselves and act like mature adults if they want to have a picnic in a park with a bottle of wine or even a couple bottles of wine, that they're not going to get too rowdy and disturb the other people around them. Again, trust is a big part of Danish society. And if you want to see why trust is such a big part of Danish society, you got to watch this video right here where we'll tell you more about it after speaking with some experts. And don't forget to check out the after show on Patreon, which you can find with this link right up here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hi.